Yeah, welcome back. We are discussing the normative and empirical approaches. So, in previous class, we discussed normative approach. So, in that normative approach, we have discussed philosophical approach, historical, institutional, and legal approaches. So, all these approaches comes under as the normative approach. So now we have to see the second approach of the study of the political science, that is empirical approach. It is quite opposite to the normative approach. So it is scientific. It is based on the practicality. So after Second World War and Industrial Revolution, the study of the political science did not find out the solutions for the problems. So that is why there is a thinking about the study of the political science. So where is the problem? What we have to discuss. So in that process, they dissatisfied with the traditional methods of the study of the political science, and to make it as a political science as a scientific subject, to add the scienticity to the political science, they invented a new approach that is called as the empirical approach, the practicality. Then now we have to see what is an empirical approach. The Industrial Revolution and other social problems pressed political scientists for solution. In the 20th century, political scientists were unable to find solutions to real life political problems. At this stage, the interest in philosophical speculation declined. In the beginning, the empirical approach was viewed as a supplement to the normative approach. But after 1940s, the empirical approach monopolized the study of politics. Graham Walsh, Arthur Bentley, Charles Merriam are some empirical thinkers. Graham Walsh, in his book Human Nature in Politics, introduced greater realism and psychological dimension in political studies. Arthur Bentley, in his book, introduced the sociological dimensions in political science or in politics or study of the political science. So now we have to see what are the advantages of the empirical approach, why it is better than the normative approach. The first one is, the first advantage of the empirical approach is broadening of frontiers of politics. That means new political terms and phenomena found a place in the study of politics. Example: power, influence, authority, political behavior, political culture, etc. So these are the new terms. So in this empirical approach, they find out the meaning of the new words. What is the power? What is influence, authority, such things. And second advantage is given scientific orientation to politics. The empirical approach has made research in political science more realistic. Subjects like voting pattern, elections can be more reliably analyzed with the help of case analysis, interviewing, observation, etc. And third advantage is made politics more dynamic. The empirical approach has enabled political scientists to take their theories beyond political institutions. Today, political scientists focus a lot of attention on the political behavior of individuals and groups. So, another advantage is the empirical approach fulfills the shortcomings of the old approaches. That means it does not neglect the institutional element but it tries to approach the institutions in their fullness as they work. Example, the normative theories gave us the ideal of democracy, resolving questions such as is a presidential or parliamentary system more conducive to democracy in Indian conditions? What percentage of Indians are casting their vote? And how many are doing so freely? Can be achieved only after fact finding by employing empirical techniques. So that means the advantages of the empirical approach, briefly, if you say that, we found the new terms and we define the meaning of these such new terms like power, authority, influence, etc. What is influence? What is power? What is authority? So, what is political behavior, political culture, political development? So, these are the new concepts and new words in the political science, and we define the meaning of these new words. Then easily, betterly, very clearly we can understand the system. And second one is advantage. The scientific approach we can adopt here. That means, okay, simple elections are conducting, but what are the factors influences the election process? The voting behavior, the how many people are casting their vote, what basis they casting their vote, and what are the influences, what are the factors. These things we can study based on the case studies or observation and some other techniques and the tools. So we can assess the political behavior, the voting behavior. So this is the second advantage. And another one is normative approach tells us the democracy is the best form of the government. But didn't say which democratic system is suitable for India or not. Parliamentary system of democracy or presidential system of democracy or unitary or federal. So we have different types of democratic systems. This empirical approach clearly tells us which system is suitable for our Indian conditions. That is parliamentary system or presidential or unitary or federal, what system. So this is the advantages of the empirical approach. And some disadvantages also there. So one is critics says that an entirely value-free approach is not desirable because civilization would stagnate if political science divorced itself from morality. That means though it is a practical approach, but we should not neglect the values. So that is the important. We should not separate the values from the study of the political science. Although in the initial years the empirical approach generated a lot of excitement amongst political academics, but now several of these academics are becoming disillusioned with the empirical approach. So, the main reason for this disillusion is that the approach appears to have failed to deliver on its biggest promise to find a solution to world problems. And now we have to see the features of the empirical approach. Empirical approach emerged in the 20th century, but empirical tradition can be traced back to the earliest days of political thought. It can be seen in Aristotle's attempt to classify constitutions, in Machiavelli's realistic account of statecraft, and in Montesquieu's theory of government and law. In 20th century, it monopolized the study of politics. In that sense, it is modern approach. Yes. And second one is, it is a stress scientific method. It stresses the scientific method. Empiricists studied political process using scientific techniques such as survey, research, observation, experiment, measurements, etc. Example, a normative approach to electoral studies may philosophize on why people should vote, whereas empirical approach would conduct surveys and interview of voters to find out the actual voting process. The goal of empiricists is to develop a science of political behavior. And another one is, it is value-free approach. The empirical approach does not bother with morals, ethics and values, just completely focus on the practical. It is a rational approach. It restricts itself to what is and was rather than what ought to be. Empiricists draw a line of difference between fact and value. They take value neutral attitude. Another feature of empirical approach is, it is interdisciplinary approach. While studying the political issues, empiricists welcome social sciences like sociology, psychology, and economics. It believes that political behavior of man is only one aspect of his total behavior, and so the interdisciplinary study would help political analysis. The example, to study voting behavior of the people who should study one's loyalty to caste, religion, and political party economic condition required to be examined. So interdisciplinary means taking information or methods from another subject. To understand political concepts, you have to go for the sociology or anthropology. So history also sometimes. This is called as the interdisciplinary. And another one is descriptive. It is descriptive. It means it seeks to analyze and explain where the normative approach is perspective, in the sense that it makes judgments and offers recommendations. And another one is emphasis on informal process of politics. In the modern approach, greater emphasis has been put on informal process of politics and less on political institutions in isolation. And another feature is, this empirical approach is realistic. Empirical theories are realistic. These theories are not based on assumptions but on facts. Example, a normative philosopher may believe that an ideal state is one where the capital punishment, that is death penalty, is banned. On the other hand, an empirical thinker may produce statistical evidence to prove that countries that practice capital punishment show lower instances of killings than countries where the death penalty is not practiced. The death penalty saves several innocent lives by taking the life of a hardened criminal. So, these are the some of the basic important features of the empirical approach. So another approach is that is the behavioral approach. Of course, this empirical approach also failed to find out the solutions of the problems, the exact analysis. So that is why another approach came into popular, that is the behavioral approach. So in coming chapters, clearly we discussed about the what is behavioral approach. So what is the importance and all these things. So this is the information about the empirical approach. Thank you.